Payton Wilson is on a tour to prove himself as the most dynamic linebacker in this year's NFL draft. And that tour got off to a start with blazing speed.
You are Locked On Wolfpack, your daily podcast on the NC State Wolfpack, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
What's up, Wolfpack Nation? It's time to get locked in with Locked On. Thanks for making Locked On Wolfpack your first listen each and every day. We are free and available wherever you get your podcasts and on YouTube, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day. This episode is brought to you by Nissan. Are you the kind of driver that likes to push things just a little bit further? Take the Nissan Rogue, Nissan Pathfinder, or the Nissan Armada and go find your next big adventure. Check them all out today at nissanusa.com. Happy Friday. Happy March 1st to all. As always, I'm Grayson Boone, joined by former Wolfpack defensive tackle Kenton Gibbs. Kenton, Payton Wilson is at the NFL Combine, and he's running hella fast.
We're starting off this month with a little March gladness, if you will, because everybody, it's insane to think about, right? I've talked to multiple draft experts about Payton Wilson. I've talked to multiple draft experts about all the players that are coming out of NC State, and we'll have more draft experts going forward before the draft comes up here. But the talk of the town was Payton Wilson is going to have amazing numbers, and I quote, this was what I was told by one source, there is nothing he could do short of working a miracle that will boost his stock. Well, I guess he just turned water into a 40 time, because this there is now a renewed buzz about him. The same folks, I called him the day after the 40, and there was immediately like, the thought was maybe you would get high 4.4, maybe low 4.5. This is not something that people had anticipated, which is a little disappointing given the fact that this is the exact same time he ran electric time with Thunder last year.
I was just about to say, I can tell you one person that I know was anticipating this, and that was Coach Thunder. He tweeted on Thursday night that Payton Wilson did indeed run the same time that he ran over the summer. That was an official 4.43 electric speed. None of the football coaching staff at NC State is surprised by this. None of the fans are really surprised by this either. I'm not surprised by this. Kenton's not surprised by this. We know what Payton Wilson is. He is a freak athlete, and he is the best linebacker, best defender coming into this NFL draft, and he put himself on full display Thursday night.
Absolutely, and I've said this a million times, and I'll say it a million more, right? There is, you talk about Thunder strength and conditioning program and how it develops players, builds players, all that great stuff. Payton Wilson is a great example of that, because when you look at how he came into NC State, off the ACL tear and what he turned into after that. A lot of that you give credit to Payton Wilson, because he is that type of player, and he, regardless of what happens in the weight room, at a certain point in time, you have to get on the field and figure it out. However, the ability to mold and refine and get the exact same time, when guys go and train for the combine, they train with combine specialists who specialize in all year long. They're looking at new ways to shave off just that 0.05 maybe in terms of how to get you faster, and they got the exact same time as what he got, training at NC State with Thunder. But I also want to say this. People are now saying that, like, he's shooting up the boards, which is insane to think about for a guy who should have and came damn close to sweeping the awards last year.
Right.
Brother, in the words of Young Dolph, get paid, young brother, get paid. Go get the money, because he definitely earned himself some with that 4.43.
It's definitely a factor of the nation learning more about what Wolfpack Nation really already knows. And we saw it on display all of this last football season. He was our leading tackler by a wide margin, the most dominant force on the field every single time that he was on it. And you mentioned Coach Thunder. I think this is a perfect time to tie back in a segment we did on Coach Thunder probably a couple of months ago now. But not only was Payton shocking, I guess, the nation on Thursday night, a success of his own front. Payton Wilson has earned every single bit of success that he has seen. This is also a success of Coach Thunder and his strength and conditioning staff. Yes, Payton Wilson had his fair share of injuries over the course of his six years at NC State, and he is now fully healthy, running faster than every other linebacker at the NFL Combine, and put on his best season that he had in Wolfpack red and white. And so this is such a win for NC State as a whole. It's a win.
Absolutely.
It's a win for Thunder. It's a win for Coach Doran and NC State football. So good to see Payton Wilson really reaping the rewards of all the hard work that he has poured into himself to get to this point. Kenton texted me a mock draft of Payton going as high as 20th overall. Now, I will say that shocked me a little bit.
A little ambitious.
I didn't foresee him going that high, but I'll tell you what, can you blame any team taking a chance on this type of talent?
And the thing about Payton is this, right? It would not be the worst pick ever, regardless of how it turns out, because you can see the vision. There have been picks before where it's like, hey, you just drafted a guard who never started till his senior year at Marymount. What are we doing here, right? Like, that's a very different thing than
or a quarterback that never started till his senior year at UNC.
Yeesh. Hate that for you if you were to do such a thing. But, you look at that and you say, man, I can't see the vision there. With Payton, there is one factor, albeit a big one, but one factor that determines the whole ballgame, because he has the work ethic. He has the athletic ability. He has the football smarts, the intangibles. He has all the things to be a cornerstone of your defense for the next 12 years. It's just the health. If that health maintains and holds at the average or better level of the average NFL linebacker, him at 20 is an excellent pick. It's a steal if I'm being honest.
Yes, it's a steal.
Again, that is considering, that is removing, like if we're playing Madden and turning the injury setting off altogether, right? Like Payton, top 5 guy at that point in time, but it is what it is. This is the real world. If ifs and buts were berries and nuts, squirrels would never starve. But here we are, where we are. And Payton Wilson in this world, I don't know how high he'll climb. I'm not going to speculate and all that good stuff. I have heard that, now teams are looking at him in that early second round range. I have not heard anything higher than that, because coming in, it was third, fourth round grade. After yesterday's performance, we're talking early second, which is a massive jump from every standpoint. Grace and I talk about the financial ramifications and implications of a lot of things. That's a couple $1 million. That's a cool couple million that he's made himself with just a 40 and looking dynamic in shorts and t-shirt.
And then last part about this, and we often reference this when we're talking about NC State athletes and their respective drafts in that sport. The representation from Payton Wilson on this level is huge. It's huge. Yeah. We just heard on Monday when Cam Riley committed to NC State from Auburn, and he talked about Payton Wilson literally being a reason he is choosing to come here to Raleigh. It is that significant. When you have a player as big as Payton Wilson has become, and he has the production level that he has, that type of thing matters in recruiting. That type of thing matters in national perception. And so this is fantastic for Payton. He deserves every bit of this success, but it is equally as good for NC State football. This is a massive win for the program.
Yeah, and just a few small notes here, because I want to leave Wolfpack fans not only excited about his future, but about the Wolfpack's future. Payton Wilson was an All-American, the 105th best player in the country, according to ESPN, okay? Now, this is how funny the cycle of things go, because Grayson and I were talking about the cycle of how John Navarre was replaced by Chad Henne at Michigan, right? It was a guy that everybody looked at like very similar profile, but how good is he? Do you know where I'm going with this, Grayson? Do you know who's coming in?
Maybe.
That is the best player in the state of Tennessee a 6'5", 208-pound linebacker who is said to be the 130th best player in the nation, is coming into NC State in Elijah Groves. What a time to be alive. What a time to be a part of Wolfpack Nation, and what a time for this football team, because I'm not saying that Elijah Groves has to step in to be the new Payton Wilson. But if he can do one of those types of moves, and don't get me wrong, this ain't a situation like I talk about Skalski and Boulware getting replaced by Trotter and Carter at Clemson a lot. The level that Payton played at, it's impossible to be that much of an improvement. Right. But if he can come close to that level, all of those concerns that we had in the offseason about what's our linebacking core going to look like, who's going to be good on that linebacking core next year, done, gone, over at that point.
Payton's success causes dominoes to fall that you land Elijah Groves and Cam Riley here at NC State. He is directly affecting the future of this program and what he was able to pull off. Couldn't be more excited for Payton as he, begins on his journey to the next level in the NFL.
Yeah, honestly, we're at a loss for words right now. And Lord knows, Grayson and I, we could talk about the weather for 3 hours straight if you let us. We could be guys naming dudes, just talking about random players that we've seen.
You start naming dudes.
You know what I'm saying? We could do that. But in watching how Payton performed yesterday, it left us both speechless. I mean, what a performance. And it couldn't happen to a better guy. That just to put a bow in this segment, there is not a better player that this could have happened to. Yeah. In terms of him being like, oh, there's a definite ceiling that he can't smash through. And he said, word, give me an elevator, give me a hammer, because it's going down. And he's done it.
Coming up next, we're getting into Fan Friday, answering our top comments of the week after a quick word from our sponsors. Our first sponsor of the day is Nissan. Are you the kind of driver that likes to push things just a little bit further? Do you ever wonder what adventure could be around the next corner? Our friends at Nissan have a lineup of SUVs with the capabilities to take your adventures to the next level. The 2024 Nissan Rogue is perfect for city drives and also great escapes. Class exclusive Google built-in is your always updating assistant to call on for nearly anything. Gone are the days of connecting your phone. Google Assistant, Google Maps, and Google Play Store are built right into that 12.3-inch HD touchscreen information system. The 2024 Rogue is the perfect mid-size crossover for your next adventure. The 2024 Nissan Pathfinder has room up to 8, an expansive cargo capacity, and advanced available 4x4 capabilities. With 284 horsepower and up to 6,000 pounds towing, when adventure calls, the Pathfinder is there to answer. So take the Nissan Rogue, the Nissan Pathfinder, or the Nissan Armada and go find your next big adventure. Shop NissanUSA.com. Middle portion of our Friday show, now getting into Fan Friday, addressing our top comments of the week. Let's get into it. First one comes from Toast803. They say teams take on the coaching staff personality. Unfortunately, that is not a winning formula moving forward. Look across Wolfpack Nation. The winning programs have dynamic leaders as coaches that have infused their personality on their teams. Sometimes this is frustrating in baseball and football, but they are winners. What is the personality of Wolfpack men's basketball?
I 1,000% agree, and I think that this is the problem with the idea of you need to go into the portal and rebuild every year. If you don't have a coach that has a personality that is so big and, how do I put this, impactful, that it imprints itself on the team in a way that manifests itself on the court. With all due respect, if Coach Keats wants to be remembered as and wants people to think of him as, he's a guy who they fought hard, sure, you can do that. But I don't think that that's what he wants his personality and what he wants his tenure here to be about. There realistically is not that type of situation here where there is that personality where you can say, this is the thing that Keats has put on this team. He's put discipline on this team. That you'll always have a tough time turning them over and getting them to commit fouls. This is a team that he's put pace into this team. They'll always be one of the highest scoring teams. They'll always be go, go, go. They're the master go. He hasn't put This is a very cerebral team. They'll always make the right play, the right pass, the right shot, all that good stuff. So I 1,000% agree. And the biggest thing is with the amount of turnover year to year in basketball, if you're not going to be a program that's like, hey, we have to be very intentional about getting guys in the program that we'll build for 4 years. If you're going to do this year-over-year turnover thing, you have to be a bigger personality to imprint your personality upon the team.
I think personality and identity are two very different things, but in the same sense, I'm not sure NC State basketball has either right now. Right. And there's just so much up in the air. There's kind of now a creeping sense of uncertainty as the offseason gets closer. Kenton, you talked about having to completely redo a roster every single year. And that type of thing affects the culture of a program, whether you like it or not. Sometimes it leads to more success than others. I guess you look at last year compared to this year. But, I mean, it's still kind of the same product you're getting every single year. You're right around the bubble-ish every single year. And personally, I like Coach Keats' personality. I think he's a really good person. I think he's a great guy. He seems fun to hang out with. Obviously, we're not getting the success on the court, and that is the only thing that matters here. And so, Kenton, I always appreciate a term that you say often is coaching is either what you teach or what you allow. And it really feels like what is being allowed is taking over in these Kevin Keats basketball games.
Yeah, 1,000%. And at the end of the day, the worst part about all this is, like Toast referred to here, but they are winners. We would not care if the turnover was what it was every year, if we're making Sweet 16s, Elite 8s, Final Fours. We would not care if there was – think about how much turnover there was on the women's basketball team last year.
Yeah.
To this year. You saw multiple players just go – and guess what? When you come out and start this season off with a bunch of top 10 upsets, all of a sudden nobody seems to care too much about, there was turnover. Because winning is, the good book says love covers over a multitude of sins. We're in sports. Winning covers over a multitude of sins.
Next one here comes from Michael Holbrook. The clock strikes midnight and Cinderfella has left his glass bedroom slipper on the ballroom floor because he just got kicked out of the big March Madness dance. Wonder who will fit the glass bedroom slipper. So we've been asked by several different people, and my answer will remain the same. It's too soon to know. I think there's still a lot that still needs to play out before we get closer to having an idea of which way this offseason will ultimately take us. But of all the potential candidates that I've seen getting floated out on social media, I do think there's a very interesting feel to this that, to me and to some others, a lot of Wolfpack fans seem to have some unrealistic expectations of who NC State could reasonably get to come here. I don't think they're tangible when you look at how all the numbers would play out. I've seen a lot of folks say that they don't want another mid-major coach. I think if it comes to that, you might want to keep that one in your pocket, because I think that's probably the most likely scenario if it comes to that. But still a lot that has to play out, of course. So we don't exactly know who's going to fit into that glass bedroom slipper.
I don't give a damn whose foot is in that slipper, as long as that thing, they can shuffle those puppies on into the big dance.
That's right.
Long as they can get us, they can cut a rug good enough to get us a win in the big dance, I'm all right. You have at that point raised the level of where we are right now. So I don't care. I'm not going to sit up here and say, I'm never going to be that guy that's like, this is the guy I want and anybody else is right. Don't care. Hire a winner. Hire a winner. Grayson and I, we talk about what we see. That's our job. Our job is not to hire the winner. The people who are supposed to hire the winner, go out there and do your thing, Mr. Corrigan. Come on.
These last two are conference realignment based. This first one comes from Troy Shields. The question is, why not succeed or fail based on your own merits? Why is the need to be force attached to any school? If a conference wants one and not the other, and that conference affiliation affords that team a lot of extra money, regardless of how successful the football team is or becomes, that necessarily didn't make sense. Anyway, State fans walk around like they absolutely hate everything Dirty Feet Club, but seem to be scared to be without them. Why? Well, I'll start. We're not afraid to be without them. If they ultimately end up leaving down the road, That's fine. I mean, that doesn't really affect us much. My point, and still remains, I just want to keep them here for that regional rivalry aspect. I want to keep them here because I want to compete against them in everything every single year. I don't want to see less of them. I want to see the pageantry between the two fan bases. I want to see red versus blue. I want to keep that aspect alive. And I think a lot of conference realignment, you're seeing it not necessarily kill off some traditions, but it is altering them in a major way. I don't want to see that happen between NC State and UNC, at least not for a while. If it eventually happens, then so be it, I suppose. But I like the regionality of the ACC here. Like I said yesterday, I want to keep Tobacco Road intact. I want to play Duke. I want to play UNC. I want to play Wake Forest. I want to play Clemson. I want to see all those schools every single year because that's what we know. We're certainly not afraid to be without them. I just prefer to have them here.
Since the advent of the iPhone, I'm pretty sure NC State is winning this rivalry. The reality is very simple. We're on what, 15 now? We're on iPhone 15 or 16s now? Like, what are we doing here? The reality of this thing is simple. I don't think there's a fear in being without them. I think it is more so one of those things that's like the legislators did what they did and who cares? And even beyond that, there are too many people on the other side of this thing that are a little deluded. I don't think that Wolfpack fans are clamoring and saying, oh, thank God, we're stuck together, yay. It's more so a thing of like, oh, we're stuck together. Cool, I guess. Like, no big deal one way or the other. Because like Grayson and I specifically talked about yesterday, realignment is not being pushed by basketball. If it was, Villanova would be in the Big Ten, SEC, ACC, Big 12, something like that. They're not. They're not FCS for a reason, or they're not FBS for a reason. Okay? The reality is football is the cash cow. And in the words of Wu-Tang Clan, cash rules everything around me. Cream, get the money. Dollar bills, y'all. That's what we're looking at here. And if we're talking about these two teams and in terms of what our football teams not only are producing in terms of wins and losses, but what they're producing in terms of funds, there is not a chasm that is large enough for NC State to be scared. And like I've said many times on Locked On ACC and here, the numbers do not bear out that it would make sense for the SEC or Big Ten to accept either one of us as schools as it currently stands in terms of like, oh, would adding them in add to our pie or split it amongst the team who is not carrying their weight for that 50, 60 million?
And last one comes from 505 Premoto. They say, your comments on the utter delusion of the UNC community are dead right. I was just looking at the SB Plus football rankings for the 2024 season and got quite the chuckle. UNC is ranked 58th. Want to know who is ranked 51st? App State. NCSU ranks 45th, 13 places higher. Some program they have over there.
Hey, listen, William is running a soft program. That's a soft team. They're just soft people. And again, in terms of why I want to stay together, as long as they keep William in as the head coach, I'll be outside. The little Rams club singing "We Belong Together" by Mariah Carey if that keeps them there and in that spot. Because as long as this team remains this soft-chinned, weak-kneed, slack-jawed team, we will continue to pound them into submission, and I'll be here for it.
And obviously, just to reiterate, conference realignment is football-based. Make no mistake about it. It's really not even based academically. On some level, it is when you have the standards for a conference like the Big Ten, but this is football driven. That is it. And UNC is not driving anything worth a damn to another conference. We know this.
When your winningest two or your best two quarterbacks in program history combined for 0 New Year's Six wins, 0 playoff appearances, or ACC championship wins, what are we really doing here? What are we really doing acting as if you're in an entirely different caliber above your rivals from down the street? Come on. Let's be very serious here.
And in the interest of glass houses, we're not saying that we are. But for UNC to walk around and talk like they're moving the money here at the big man table, they ain't doing that. They don't let them deceive you. They are not doing that.
Ain't enough Jordan selling to make that the reality.
Rounding out our Friday episode, Women's basketball picked up a big-time win in overtime over Syracuse on Thursday evening. We're going to break it down after a quick word from our sponsors. Our second sponsor of the day is FanDuel. The wait is almost over for our state of North Carolina, as FanDuel, America's #1 sportsbook, is coming to our state. On March 11th, we'll finally be able to bet on all of our favorite teams in all of our favorite sports. And with FanDuel, there's tons of ways for us to get in on the action. You can bet on everything from money line to over-unders to which team will make a little noise in this year's March Madness. This all comes on an app that's safe, secure, and super easy to use. Plus, with live betting, you can even pick which player will put up the next bucket, maybe even the one after that. See for yourself why FanDuel is America's #1 sportsbook. Just go to FanDuel.com/lockedon so you can be the first to know when FanDuel goes live in North Carolina. That's FanDuel.com/lockedon. Make every moment more with FanDuel. Last couple minutes here on Friday, women's basketball picked up a big-time win in overtime over the Syracuse Orange, 75-71. Their 7th ranked win of the season. I believe that ties them for the most in the country with UCLA, if I'm not mistaken. Outstanding effort to come back and win this one. This game was kind of all over the place. It was maybe one of the more entertaining games of the season so far. Several questionable calls in this one that certainly left you desiring more on the officiating end, but really what else is new? Another one of these games where it necessarily wasn't the best effort, but they found a way to get it done. This team has been finding ways to win in so many different ways in this season. And, we knew coming into this what fair would be for Syracuse. And I think she delivered on that. She had 26 and she shot, I believe it was like close to 50% from the perimeter.
9-21. Yeah.
Fifth, as I mentioned yesterday, 5th all-time scorer in women's college basketball. She looked every bit of the part, but NC State found a way to weather the storm. And I thought especially Zoe Brooks actually defended Fair extremely well. And for Fair to only put up 26, I thought that might sound kind of crazy. I think Zoe Brooks did an exceptional job defending her and limited her to only 26. But all in all, it's a good win. They needed this win. It was a bounce-back win, had to avoid 3 straight losses. They defended Reynolds. I believe this clinches 2nd seed in the ACC tournament coming up, so this is a win on multiple large proportions.
In the words of the famous singer Aaliyah, this game was back, 4th and 4th. I mean, every time you looked up, that lead was just changing hands like the last wing at the Levert family reunion, and yet somehow this team found a way, right? And when you talk about teams taking on the coach's personality, that's what we talk about with Westmore.
Right.
They find a way. It's not always going to be the same way. Yeah, we'll get those games where we hold teams to single-digit quarters. It's amazing when it happens. It's fun. It's exciting. It's really, really hard-nosed stuff defense. You'll also have some games where you got to get 80 to win. You'll also have some games where you need players who are not traditionally the hottest hands from outside to knock down the 3 in a big moment. Looking at you, Sinai Rivers, coming up big in the clutch time when she did. And so it's just always a team that finds a way. A team that, regardless of what they do, you feel like they're going to figure it out. They're having a tough night defensively. You figure somebody's going to do enough scoring to get us over the hump. They're having a night where they can't throw a rock in the ocean. You figure, all right, they're going to get in stances, and they may not be able to throw a rock in the ocean, but neither will the other team, and so on and so forth. And so this is, again, just one of those wins where you say it's gutty, it's gutsy, it's gritty, it's nasty, it's ugly, but every win is like a baby, and it's your baby. So it doesn't matter what it looks like. If it comes out the womb and it's yours, you're going to hold that thing up like Simba when he was first born, and you'll be happy with it.
We've talked several different times about the kind of bizarre stat lines that Sinai Rivers has become known for. She had 22 points on 5 of 14 shooting, but she was 10 of 13 at the foul line. She hit a couple big shots there in the 4th quarter and in overtime. Clutch players do clutch things, and oftentimes that is who Sinai Rivers is. I thought River Baldwin also played an excellent game, another double-double to add to her pile of those. What a season River Baldwin is having, even coming all the way back from injury. She looks a little bit healthier every single time they're out there on the floor. Another big-time game for River. It's just such a benefit to where this program is and that they can turn it around on a dime and pull off such a win like this one. Nonetheless, excellent win. 7th ranked win of the season. Say that out loud. That's spectacular.
And again, 7th ranked win of the season for a team that was picked to finish 8th in the conference. River Baldwin keeps showing up in big ways. And, I remember when there was, any offense you get from her is a bonus. You shouldn't expect it. Well, hear me out. Hear me out now. That's all I'm saying. With what we're seeing here, you have to realize this is part of who she is. You can count on her to be a part of the offense because she's proven so, game in and game out. When she's healthy, when she's right and rolling, she's going to be productive offensively. That's part of who she is. So, another great game for her as well. It was a great team win. Again, were things perfect? No. But it's a win.
That'll do it for us here on Friday and for the week. Obviously, men's basketball is in the Dean Dome on Saturday. My message to the Dirty Foot Club is as follows. Don't let us win. You better not let us win that one.
Don't let us split. Don't let us split it.
As always, be sure to hit that like button, drop your comments down in the comment box, and if you have not already, mash that subscribe button on your way out the door. Enjoy your weekend. We will see you all on Monday. Until then, go Pack.
Go Pack.